In Ontario, if you need to get into a place immediately, they will find you. That's called an emergency placement.
Hello, I'm Dan Richards. Welcome to Money Insights. My guest today is Mary Ellen Tomlinson, founder and president of Senior Care Options. Mary Ellen brings 15 years of experience in elder care, has a degree in gerontology, and this is part of a series of conversations that we're having on elder care issues. Mary Ellen, today we're going to be talking about what people need to look for in selecting an option, a housing option for their parents once living at home is no longer feasible. And just to quickly recap, in other interviews, you've mentioned that there are three basic kinds of care options, housing options. What are those quickly again?
Retirement home, assisted living, or long-term care facilities.
So let's start with the retirement home. You have a client, someone you're working with, who's at the point where their parents have bought into the fact that they need to move into a retirement home. What's the first thing that you look for?
Reputation.
Reputation, okay. And how do you determine that?
Well, all provinces will most likely have a retirement home association because they're not governed by any provincial body. So you want to maybe check that out, and it'll have a different name in different provinces. Then you want to talk to your friends and neighbors or your colleagues at work. Where are their parents and how do they like it? After you've got the reputation down pat, then you want to go in and see how friendly it is, how clean it is. Are there interesting things in the central foyer, like little birds in cages and musical events and things like that? If your parents are really thinking of going into a retirement home, they have the option of going in for a week or two just to test it out. And I really suggest they do that because they might find that they like it or that this is not the other one, not the one for them, and they might choose another one after they've had that visit.
And how about location? How important do you find location being in terms of the selection process?
Well, I like the location to be close to their children, so either close to their children's home or close to their children where they work, so that you can drop in on the way home from work, or if it's close to home, you have easy access for weekends when you're very, very busy. So it's a question of where the children are. Sometimes people think, oh, I want to stay in my own neighborhood, but if the neighborhood is not where their children are living, that's putting a bit of a strain for visits, and that's too bad.
Okay, so you've talked about what you're looking for in a retirement home. Let's suppose that you're at a point now where you need to move to the next level, which is assisted care. What's the most important thing that you look for there specifically?
Well, there again, you want reputation.
Reputation for what exactly?
For good care, for humane interest in the person, for doing proper social events that keep the person active and interested in their life. You might say, well, my mother's very fond of a particular religious organization, so it might be really a good idea to try to get an assisted living that's under the umbrella of that religious organization, because she's going to feel more at home and she's going to be with like-minded people. That's very important.
Okay. And the final housing option, which are long-term care, or as they used to be known, nursing homes, what are the most important things that you look for there?
Well, that's a real struggle because right now you just hope you can get on a waiting list. The more modern ones have 2-year waiting lists, and so as you go down, and the question of the waiting list might say, well, what is the facility? Maybe it's not as bright and sparkly as the one with the 2 or 3 year waiting list. But if you need to have a place to go, you're just going to have to say, well, I can't have the bright and sparkly because I can't afford to wait the 2 or 3 years. Now, the care is all governed by the provincial government, so I'm not worried too much about the care. But what I'd really like to see is what is the atmosphere of the caregivers in that home? Go over, check it out, maybe go more than once, see how it is, see how it's in the morning, see how it is in the afternoon, and maybe even go in the evening to see what's going on in the evening, because that's a very important 3 different segments of the day, and they all have different shifts. So you have different workers on all those 3 parts of the day, and you want to check and see how they are working with other residents in that long-term care facility.
And last question, let's suppose that you've got your eye on one particular retirement home or nursing home or assisted care facility. You can't get into that one. can you take what you can get and then stay on the waiting list for the one that you want to get into?
Yes, you can in Ontario. Now, I'm not sure what happens in other provinces, but in Ontario, if you need to get into a place immediately, they will find you. That's called an emergency placement. And then you still have 3 other choices that you can take and maybe move when a place comes open for you.
Mary Ellen, thank you very much.
You're welcome.